in this step, we'll go ahead and create our rules for our remaining elements. So what I'm going to do is just copy container, and then we will paste, and we're going to change our selector name from our class to our element name, in this case header. And then our width will be 100%. So this will be 100% of the parent. The parent is our container, which is 800 pixels. Our height, we're going to set our height to, let's go with 25 rem. And then our margin will get zeroed out, as will our padding. And then our border will just go down to 1 pixel. And then a color of our choice. So I'll just go with blue. Okay, and then I'm going to copy header. And what you're going to notice here is we will, in almost every element we create, and you're going to come up with your own style, but I tend to call out position, width, height, margin, and padding. And that is my start point for just about every element. And then you can add rules based on what you're trying to do with that specific element. But this is kind of your start point, and this is the order that I tend to place things. Now, I didn't include border in that last statement because I don't always have border, but we do have position, width, height, margin, and padding. So what I can do is, now that I've zeroed this out for the most part, except for this height, we can just copy and we will paste. And now our next element is main. So we'll target our main element, and the width will be 100%. Position will be relative. So relative means the elements are relative to the element which precedes them. Okay, so they're all relatively positioned by what comes before them. All right, so my height for main will go down to just 20 rem, and the margin, the padding, and let's just go green. And now we're going to deal with our section. So let's go ahead and copy. And even though all my sections are going to be, for the most part, the same, I'm still going to target each one with a class, just so you get used to doing that. So we will have first our class dot section 1. The position is relative. We're going to make the width 70%. The height will be, matter of fact, I got ahead of myself. We're going to go back to main, and the height will be auto. We're going to let the main area automatically adjust to what's inside. So let's just call this out as auto. And then section 1 will have 70% on the width, 20 rem on the height, 0, 0, and let's just go ahead and we'll do this one pink. Then we'll copy section 1 and we will paste. Everything is the same except for this will now be section 2. And then we will paste. This one will be section 3. Now, again, you've already heard me say this. These all three are the same. So we really only needed to style section. But if you wanted them to be different background images, different widths, different heights, different positions, whatever, then we would use a class to target each one specifically. Okay, so we're doing this more just as a demonstration. Okay, now we need to deal with our aside. So let's paste, and we will target the element aside specifically. and our width will now be 30%. And we're going to do a height of 60 rem. So we're going to have a height which is 3 times equals the height of our 3 sections. And we're going to change, and let's go ahead and change our color here. Let's make this one orange red, like so. Okay. And we're going to change our position from relative to absolute. So now, absolute position, we can call out a coordinate, and we can base our coordinates starting in the upper left, the upper right, the bottom right, or the bottom left. So as an example, if we want to make working this out really easy for us, what we're going to do is drop down a line after our position, and we're going to type in our top property, and we're going to say 0. And then, because I want this on the right-hand side, let's just start it on the right-hand side, and we'll do right 0, like so. Okay, and now our main ends, and we need to do our footer. So let's just drop down, we'll paste the section we already had, and we'll call this one, or we'll target this one, this selector, with our footer element. The position will be relative. We're going to set the width back to 100%, and we'll set the height to, let's just go 3 rem, and we will 0 out our margin, and let's just have this one be black. And we'll go ahead and save. And let's go ahead now and refresh our page. And we should have our containing element will continue to grow in height based on what's inside, because its height is auto. There's our header. Let me go ahead and refresh. I've been having this issue. I don't know why. I'm just going to close this. And to make things a little bit easier to tell what's what, let's go to our header, and we will type in header. And then let's go to our section. Here's our section right here. We'll type section. And we'll go to our next section. This will be section 2. I should put section 1 on this one here. And then section 3. We have our aside, and we have our footer. And then we'll go ahead and save. And let's go ahead and do our live preview. So we'll see our header area, section 1, section 2, section 3, our footer, and then our aside. And for some reason the aside jumped down. The aside should be going right up here. Let me go back and see what's up here. So let's go back to our code, and let's find our aside. And we have top, we have our height, margin. So I'm not sure why this one didn't go up. Let me go ahead and stop the video and see if I messed something up here. All right, I believe I realized what I did, and that's on my top. I got ahead of myself and I put a semicolon instead of a colon on the top. So it messed things up. Let's go ahead and save, and let's refresh fresh, and now that is correct. So we have our aside being absolutely positioned, so it's going to draw in the upper right hand corner because we said top 0, right 0, so it will draw based off of the top right hand corner of its parent element, and its parent element is the main element. So for this to work properly, we need to make sure that absolutely positioned elements, that their parent is set to relative. If we did not set the main to relative, then there's a likelihood that the aside would then look probably for the next parent element, and that would be the div, and the div would draw up here instead. So just make sure your elements have a position set. The default is static, but in this case, for things to work correctly with our absolutes, it's probably best to set your element to relative, the parent element to relative. Okay, so now we have our basic structure done. We have our basic rules for creating our layout. What we're going to start to explore next is some of the how positioning works, and some of the other ways we can position elements within our content areas.